I want to say a few words about my father and why I believe this weekend is so important. But don't worry, unlike Lionel,
Prince William just completely stripped Queen Camilla of her authority during a secret palace crisis meeting, leaving her in absolute fury. The lockdown at Windsor Castle began when Camilla attempted to sign off on an unauthorized Regency document behind William's back. Instead of backing down, the Prince of Wales intercepted the papers right out of her hands with a cold, 5-word rejection. That single 10-second clash permanently broke the royal chain of command before sunrise. The gloves are entirely off, and the fight for control of the crown has just turned dangerous. The sudden call at 3 a.m. The heavy rain hit the leaded windows of Adelaide Cottage at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning. Inside, a secure encrypted mobile phone began to vibrate on a wooden bedside table. The screen did not show a name. It displayed a high-priority digital code used only for immediate constitutional emergencies. Prince William reached for the device before the second ring could wake his family. The voice on the other end belonged to a long-serving, trusted senior military aide based inside Windsor Castle. The message was brief, direct, and completely unexpected. Queen Camilla had just ordered the immediate opening of the state rooms for an unscheduled meeting. She had not informed the heir to the throne. William was out of bed before the call ended. He did not notify his personal media team or wait for his usual security detail to assemble a full convoy. Instead, he threw on a dark jacket, grabbed his car keys, and walked out into the downpour. The drive across the private roads of the royal estate took less than 4 minutes. The gravel crunched under his tires as he pulled up to the side entrance of the castle. Usually, the palace guards would present arms or stand at rigid attention. Tonight, the atmosphere was entirely different. 2 senior officers stood near the heavy oak doors, looking visibly anxious. They avoided direct eye contact as they guided the prince inside. The long stone corridors of Windsor Castle were completely dark, except for the dim emergency floor lighting. The usual daytime hum of tourists, staff, and tour guides was entirely absent. The only sound was the heavy thud of William's boots echoing against the old walls. He bypassed the main lifts and took the narrow stone stairs 2 at a time. He knew exactly where the lights were burning. The small library, a room normally reserved for private family reading and low-key legal briefings, was illuminated. A thick line of yellow light leaked from underneath the heavy double doors. William did not knock. He turned the brass handle and pushed the door open with considerable force. The scene inside looked like a snapshot from a political crisis meeting. Queen Camilla was sitting at the center of a long mahogany table, surrounded by 3 of her most loyal personal private secretaries. 2 heavy leather briefcases lay open on the table, their contents spilled out across the polished wood. Several official documents stamped with the distinctive red ink of the Privy Council sat directly in front of the Queen. A half-empty cup of black tea stood next to her right hand, steam still rising slightly from the surface. Camilla did not look up immediately when the door opened. She continued signing her name at the bottom of a thick stack of cream-colored paper. The scratching of her fountain pen was the only sound in the room for several seconds. Her staff, however, froze instantly. One young aide dropped a silver paperclip onto the table, and the tiny metallic ping sounded incredibly loud in the silence. The private secretaries looked at each other, then looked at the floor. They knew that the Prince of Wales was never supposed to find out about this gathering until the paperwork was already processed. William closed the door behind him without taking his eyes off the Queen. He did not say good morning. He did not offer a formal greeting. He simply walked straight to the edge of the table and stood directly over the documents. His posture was completely rigid. He noticed the heading on the top page immediately. It carried the specific legal phrasing for an emergency amendment to the Regency Act. This particular clause dictated who would hold ultimate signing authority if the monarch became temporarily incapacitated. Camilla was attempting to alter the structural layout of the council before the official government lawyers could review it. The Queen finally capped her pen and placed it down on the table. She looked up at her stepson with a calm, practiced expression that did not match the tension in her hands. She told him that she was simply taking care of administrative details to save the family unnecessary stress during a difficult time. Her voice was quiet, steady, and entirely formal. She suggested that William return to his cottage and wait for a full briefing from her staff in the morning. She maintained that everything happening in the room was completely standard procedure. William did not move an inch. He reached down, placed his palm flat against the document she had just signed, and pulled it toward his side of the table. He looked at the signature, then looked back at Camilla. He told her that her authority did not extend to constitutional restructuring. The statement was flat, sharp, and delivered without any trace of anger or hesitation. The personal secretaries immediately began packing up their folders, sensing that the conversation had instantly shifted from a bureaucratic meeting to a direct struggle for ultimate control. The Queen's expression hardened as she realized the prince was not going to leave. She stood up from her chair, matching his height across the wide table. She reminded him that she was the Queen Consort, appointed by the King, and that her decisions were designed to protect the Crown's immediate interests. She argued that the current medical timeline required fast, decisive action that could not wait for lengthy committee meetings or formal royal assent. She insisted that the paperwork stay on her desk. William picked up the signed document, folded it twice, and slid it into the inside pocket of his jacket. He looked directly at Camilla and gave a short, 5-word response that ended all discussion. He told her that the meeting was over. The tone left absolutely no room for debate or negotiation. The Queen stepped back, her fingers gripping the edge of her chair so tightly that her knuckles turned completely white. She looked at her aides, but none of them moved to assist her or retrieve the papers. The silence in the library lasted for almost half a minute. The heavy rain continued to beat against the glass outside, a constant background hum to the quiet standoff. Camilla realized that her move to secure early administrative dominance had failed completely in less than 10 minutes. She gathered her leather handbag, turned her back on the prince, and walked toward the private exit without saying another word. Her staff followed her in a hurried, disorganized line, leaving William alone in the room with the empty teacups and the abandoned briefcases, wooden chairs, and white knuckles. The click of the heavy oak door closing behind Queen Camilla left the room completely silent. Prince William stood at the edge of the mahogany table, looking down at the scattered stationery and the empty chair where his stepmother had sat just moments earlier. He did not pull out a seat for himself. Instead, he rested his hands on the polished wood, his knuckles turning slightly white under the harsh overhead lighting. The ancient grandfather clock in the corner of the small library ticked loudly, marking 30 seconds of absolute stillness. The documents tucked inside his jacket felt heavy. William knew exactly how close the institution had just come to a quiet, backroom administrative shift. He unzipped his jacket, pulled the folded papers out, and spread them flat across the table once more. He needed to verify every single name listed on the Emergency Regency Amendment. This was not a standard piece of civil service bureaucracy. It was a highly specific, legally binding document designed to reallocate administrative signatures if King Charles became unable to sign official state red boxes. As William scanned the fine print, the details of Camilla's strategy became glaringly obvious. The amendment did not just appoint standard government officials to handle emergency duties. It specifically placed 3 of Camilla's closest institutional advisors onto the temporary Council of State, bypassing the traditional royal hierarchy entirely. If these papers had received a formal stamp without the heir's knowledge, the daily management of the monarchy would have shifted into entirely different hands by sunrise. It was a precise, quiet move to isolate the Prince of Wales from immediate decision-making. A quiet tap on the secondary library door broke his concentration. William did not look up from the text. He gave a brief command to enter, expecting one of Camilla's returning aides. Instead, a senior royal courtier stepped into the room, carrying a fresh tray of hot water and a secure digital tablet. This was not a junior staff member. This was a veteran palace official who had served the late queen for over 2 decades. He had intentionally remained in the building long after his official shift ended, waiting for this exact confrontation to take place. The courtier set the tray down without a sound and stepped back, his hands clasped firmly in front of him. He looked directly at the papers on the table, then looked at William. He told the prince that the drafting of these specific documents had been underway for less than 48 hours. The information was delivered in a low, even tone, completely devoid of personal opinion. The courtier revealed that a private legal firm outside London had been retained to draft the language, completely bypassing the Treasury solicitor and the standard Home Office review teams. This detail confirmed William's deepest suspicions. The entire operation had been run as a shadow operation, specifically timed for a week when the Prime Minister was out of the country and the Lord Chancellor was unavailable for consultation. It was a direct attempt to establish a legal fait accompli before the official government channels could raise an objection. William picked up his phone and took a clear photograph of every single page on the table, ensuring a permanent digital record existed outside the physical palace walls. The veteran official then reached into his jacket pocket and retrieved a small typed memorandum. He placed it next to William's hands. This paper contained a list of private phone logs from the Windsor switchboard over the last 24 hours. It showed a series of late-night calls between Camilla's private apartment and a high-ranking member of the House of Lords. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place quickly. The Queen Consort was not acting alone. She was actively building a legislative coalition to secure her position before any sudden changes occurred at the top of the monarchy. William studied the list of names on the phone log. One particular entry stood out immediately. It was an individual who had openly questioned William's proposed updates to the Duchy of Cornwall management just 3 months prior. The connection was clear. This was a coordinated push by the old guard to maintain a grip on palace finances and appointments, using the current health crisis as an immediate cover. The underlying tension that had simmered between the stepson and stepmother for 20 years had finally solidified into a concrete legal battle. The prince looked up at the courtier and thanked him for his discretion. The official gave a slight formal nod and withdrew from the room, locking the secondary door behind him. William was alone again, but the nature of the crisis had completely shifted. He knew he could not simply walk back to Adelaide Cottage and sleep. The next phase of the confrontation would begin the moment the palace staff arrived for work at 8 o'clock in the morning. He needed to ensure his own team was fully briefed before Camilla's office could spin the narrative to the press. He gathered the physical papers, placed them back inside his jacket, and zipped it up to the collar. He walked over to the tall windows and looked out at the rain-soaked courtyard. The headlights of a single black saloon car appeared near the Royal Mews, its tires splashing through the puddles as it exited the gates at high speed. Camilla was already on her way back to London, likely preparing her next move. William checked his watch. It was exactly 3:45 in the morning. The initial skirmish was over, but the structural integrity of the royal line of command was now hanging by a thread. The power of a sovereign pen. By 4 o'clock in the morning, the small library had grown noticeably colder. Prince William sat down at last, choosing the heavy oak chair at the very head of the table. He pulled a leather-bound folder toward him and opened his secure personal laptop. The screen illuminated his face with a sharp blue light, casting long shadows across the dark wood panels of the room. He did not draft a long emotional statement. Instead, he began typing a precise legal directive that would permanently counter the documents currently sitting in his jacket pocket. The strategy required absolute technical accuracy. William pulled up the text of the 1937 Regency Act on his monitor, scanning the clauses regarding the delegation of royal authority. He focused on a specific, rarely invoked administrative loophole. This particular subclause allowed the heir apparent to co-sign all emergency operational mandates alongside the reigning monarch, effectively neutralizing any unilateral decisions made by a consort. Camilla's team had counted on William waiting for a formal parliamentary review. They had not anticipated him using existing crown protocols to block them before breakfast. He printed 3 copies of the new directive using the secure Palace Network terminal in the corner of the room. The paper was thick, bearing the official scarlet crest of the Prince of Wales at the top of the page. William took out his personal fountain pen, filled with the distinctive blue-black ink reserved exclusively for official royal assent. He signed his name firmly at the bottom of each document, dating them with the exact hour and minute of the morning. This single act shifted the balance of power back to his office, rendering Camilla's midnight paperwork legally useless without his explicit written consent. The heavy main doors clicked open again at 4:20. Two individuals walked into the library without an introduction. The first was William's personal legal advisor, a sharp constitutional lawyer who had been summoned from his home in West London 40 minutes prior. The second was the permanent secretary to the Privy Council, looking exhausted but entirely focused. Both men took their places on the opposite side of the table, their eyes fixed on the fresh documents resting under William's hand. The legal advisor picked up the papers Camilla had signed, comparing them line by line with the new directive William had just printed. He did not offer any dramatic commentary. He simply noted that the Queen's documents lacked the necessary secondary countersignature from the Lord President of the Council. Because of this technical omission, William's new directive took immediate legal precedence the moment it was signed. The shadow operation had been halted not by a shouting match, but by the precise application of constitutional law. The permanent secretary then provided a crucial update regarding King Charles. The king was currently resting quietly at Sandringham, entirely unaware that this administrative battle was taking place in his name. His medical team had issued a private memo earlier that evening recommending a further 2 weeks of complete isolation from daily political briefings. This extended recovery window was exactly what Camilla's staff had used as their window of opportunity. They wanted the new signing protocols active before the king returned to London for his next scheduled audience. William did not express anger at the revelation. He told the two officials that the king's recovery must remain completely undisturbed by palace politics. He instructed the permanent secretary to deliver copies of the new directive to the Home Office and the Prime Minister's residence by courier before 6 in the morning. This timing would ensure that when the government offices opened for the day, the official state record would reflect William's overriding authority as the definitive word on Regency matters. The legal advisor nodded, sliding the documents into a secure briefcase with a digital lock. He stated that his office would handle all subsequent communication with Camilla's legal team, ensuring that any further attempts to modify the Council of State would be flagged immediately by the Treasury solicitor. The meeting was swift, professional, and entirely focused on concrete administrative steps. There was no discussion of family feelings or personal betrayals. The priority was the immediate stability of the executive branch of the monarchy. As the two advisors stood up to leave, the permanent secretary turned back to the prince. He asked if William wanted a formal notification sent to the Queen's private apartments regarding the new legal filing. William gave a flat, one-word refusal. He stated that the paperwork would speak for itself when her staff attempted to submit their documents to the Privy Council office at 8 o'clock. The message was clear. The time for polite family negotiation had passed, and the new operational hierarchy was now a matter of official state record. The library doors closed once more, leaving William alone in the quiet room. The rain outside had finally begun to ease, replaced by the faint gray light of dawn appearing over the Windsor landscape. He stood up, shut his laptop, and placed the original copies of Camilla's documents back into his jacket pocket. He had successfully defended his position as the primary decision-maker, but he knew the true test would come when the rest of the royal family woke up to discover what had happened while they slept. Whispers through the gallery walls. A senior page dropped a silver tray onto the stone floor of the corridor just after 5 o'clock. The loud clatter echoed directly outside the king's private apartments. The young man stood entirely frozen, looking down at the spilled coffee. He did not pick it up immediately. He was listening to the muffled, angry voices coming from the communication office down the hall. Queen Camilla's chief of staff was on the phone, speaking at an unusually high volume. Word of the library confrontation was already spreading through the household staff before the sun had fully risen. By 5:30, the shift change at the Windsor Security Lodge brought a wave of confusion. The night log showed William's sudden arrival and Camilla's hasty departure 40 minutes later. Palace staff operate on strict routines, and any disruption instantly signals a major crisis. Two junior housekeepers noticed the unusual lack of paperwork on the central delivery desk. Usually, the early morning circulars listing the royal schedule are printed and sorted by dawn. Today, the trays remained completely empty. The tension moved rapidly from the basement kitchens to the upper gallery walls. A senior aide witnessed the Queen's private secretary leaving the building through a side fire exit. This was a direct breach of standard protocol. Royal officials always exit through the main courtyard where their transport waits. The sudden detour suggested an active desire to avoid the building's security cameras. The staff instantly understood that the traditional balance of loyalty was fracturing. A mystery began to circulate among the domestic team regarding how William had arrived so quickly. He had bypassed the primary estate gates entirely, arriving via a narrow service lane, usually reserved for maintenance vehicles. This meant someone inside the castle had actively tracked Camilla's movements and leaked the exact timing of the meeting to the prince. The staff suspected a high-level breach, but the identity of the informant remained completely hidden. The answer emerged at 6:15 near the main equerry office. A veteran livery page noticed a handwritten note sitting on the fax machine. The document carried a brief, coded timestamp from the personal office of Princess Anne. The facts were simple. The Princess Royal had been monitoring the unusual late-night activity via the internal palace security network from her estate at Gatcombe Park. She had personally signaled William's team the moment Camilla's advisors entered the small library with the legal briefcases. Anne had ensured the traditional line of command remained unbroken. With the leak identified, a new problem immediately took its place. Camilla's press office in London began making urgent inquiries with a major Fleet Street newspaper editor. A prominent royal correspondent received an encrypted text message containing details of a sudden, logistical disagreement at Windsor. The wording was vague, but it hinted at an unprovoked intervention by the Prince of Wales. The Queen's team was moving to shape the media narrative before William's directive could reach the government printers. The internal network became a battleground of competing instructions. William's private secretary issued a firm memorandum to all palace telephone operators at 6:45. The order strictly forbade the routing of any calls from Camilla's London base to the King's medical suite at Sandringham. All communication regarding state documents had to pass through the prince's office first. The operators complied immediately, recognizing the specific legal weight of the prince's signed directive. By 7 o'clock, the corridors were fully illuminated, but the silence remained heavy. The domestic staff moved about their duties with extreme caution, speaking only in hushed whispers behind closed doors. They knew that a permanent boundary had been crossed during the night. The palace hierarchy was no longer operating as a single unit. It had split into two distinct, competing factions, and every member of the household was now forced to choose a side. A fury that cannot be hidden. The heavy iron gates of Clarence House slammed shut at exactly 7:15 in the morning. Queen Camilla's dark saloon car pulled into the gravel courtyard with a violent screech of tires, a sound completely uncharacteristic of the quiet London residents. Usually, the arrival of a senior royal vehicle is managed with absolute stillness and precision. Today, the driver did not even wait for the footman to step forward. The rear door flew open from the inside, and the Queen stepped out onto the wet stones before the car had fully stopped. She did not adjust her coat or look at the small gathering of security staff standing at attention. Her face was entirely tight, her lips pressed into a thin line that signaled absolute, unmanageable rage. The interior lights of the car had been left fully illuminated during the entire drive from Windsor Castle, a deliberate, unmistakable message to the courtiers watching from the windows. She wanted everyone to see that she was not hiding, and she was not retreating. She walked straight past the main reception desk and headed down the long, portrait-lined gallery toward her personal office. Her heels clicked sharply against the polished parquet floor, a rapid, heavy rhythm that caused two junior researchers to step back into a doorway to avoid her path. Her chief of staff was already waiting at the door of the inner sanctum, holding a secure mobile device that was buzzing continuously with incoming alerts from the cabinet office. The historical weight of this particular clash went far deeper than a single midnight meeting about paperwork. This was the violent boiling over of 20 years of underlying friction between stepmother and stepson. Since her marriage into the family, Camilla had meticulously worked to build an unassailable position of administrative security, slowly placing her trusted allies into key advisory positions across the various royal estates. William had watched this steady accumulation of influence for 2 decades, waiting for the precise moment to dismantle it. The immediate crisis facing the Queen's team was the total failure of their media strategy. At 7:45, a high-ranking editor in London called the Clarence House press office with a direct update. The newspaper could not run the leaked story about William's intervention. The reason was simple and devastating for Camilla's position. The Home Office had already logged William's signed counter-directive into the official state registry at 6 o'clock in the morning. Any media report framing William's actions as unprovoked would now directly contradict official government records. Camilla stood by the tall sash window of her office, looking out over the gray expanse of the mall. She picked up a heavy silver paperweight from her desk and set it down with a sharp thud. She told her chief of staff that the prince's move was a deliberate insult to the king's authority. Her voice was no longer quiet. It carried a hard, cutting edge that could be heard through the thick timber doors of the adjoining waiting room. She maintained that her actions at Windsor were fully justified by the need for administrative speed. The mystery of how William had secured the physical documents remained a burning question within her inner circle. Her advisors had assured her that the Regency Act draft was secure within their private legal network. They had not accounted for the quiet, enduring loyalty that veteran staff felt toward the traditional line of succession. Camilla's team began an immediate internal review of their phone logs, looking for the specific point where their operational security had collapsed. The answer arrived via a secure internal data link from the Windsor Security Office. A junior technician confirmed that the encrypted alert had originated from a terminal linked directly to Princess Anne's private desk. The realization hit the room like a physical blow. The old guard of the family had completely unified against the Queen's administrative push. Anne had not just tipped William off, she had effectively authorized the institutional blockade that left Camilla entirely isolated at the mahogany table. By 8:30, the primary legal advisor for Clarence House arrived at the office, looking visibly shaken. He placed a leather folder on the desk and delivered a brief, factual assessment. William's legal counterstrike was completely flawless. By invoking the co-signing clause of the historical Crown protocols, the prince had successfully stripped the Queen Consort of any independent executive authority regarding the current health timeline. Every single document she signed would now require the Prince of Wales's physical signature to be legally valid. The Queen Consort turned away from the window, her fingers tightening around the edge of her mahogany desk until her rings clicked against the wood. She realized that her 20-year effort to secure administrative dominance had been thoroughly dismantled in less than 6 hours. The power struggle was no longer a hidden game played behind closed doors. It was now a fixed, permanent reality that would govern every single public and private interaction within the House of Windsor going forward. The immediate fallout inside her own staff was marked by intense panic. 2 senior public relations officers offered to resign before noon, anticipating a massive investigation into how a private state document was compromised so easily. Camilla refused their resignations with a sharp wave of her hand. She ordered them to pivot their focus entirely toward the upcoming Commonwealth Day arrangements, intending to use her next major public appearance to project complete, unbothered stability to the international press. Meanwhile, her chief of staff remained on a secure line with the Lord Chancellor's office, trying to find a loophole in the directive William had filed. The answer from the government legal team was entirely unyielding. The Prime Minister had already been briefed on the matter during an early morning secure briefing and had chosen not to intervene. The government's priority was avoiding any public perception of constitutional instability, meaning they would strictly back the heir to the throne to maintain market confidence. As the morning advanced, the physical environment of Clarence House reflected the heavy mood. The usual light background music that played in the morning room was silenced. The staff moved with extreme caution, exchanging brief silent nods in the corridors. Camilla spent the remainder of the hour drafting a private, handwritten letter directly to King Charles at Sandringham. She did not entrust this message to the electronic palace courier network. Instead, she sealed the envelope with her personal signet ring and ordered a trusted personal driver to deliver it by hand to the Norfolk estate. The power structure had shifted, and the illusion of a unified royal leadership team was entirely gone. William's aggressive intervention had established a new baseline of authority inside the palace walls, leaving the Queen Consort to realize that the old rules of family compromise no longer applied under the Prince of Wales's watch. the new order takes shape. By 9 o'clock in the morning, the structural transformation inside Windsor Castle became physically visible. A team of maintenance workers arrived at the small library carrying a heavy wooden toolbox and a set of newly minted electronic security locks. Under the direct supervision of William's personal deputy equerry, the traditional brass fittings on the double doors were entirely replaced. The access codes for the room were wiped from the central database and reconfigured, ensuring that only personnel with explicit clearance from the Prince of Wales's office could enter the space. This was not a temporary measure, it was a permanent reallocation of physical and administrative territory. The keys to the secure state document safes inside the castle were transferred to a new locker system based within the security hub at Adelaide Cottage. For decades, the reigning consort had enjoyed unrestricted access to these files as a matter of standard domestic courtesy. By mid-morning, that courtesy was officially revoked. Any future request for historical state records or council minutes from Camilla's team now required a formal written application submitted 48 hours in advance. The consolidation of power extended rapidly to the daily briefing schedules. At 9:30, the veteran courtier who had assisted William during the night delivered the official new palace schedule to the Central Administration Office. The document completely omitted Camilla's personal staff from the upcoming high-level constitutional briefings scheduled for the autumn. The shift was absolute. All incoming red boxes from Downing Street were to be routed directly to William's desk first, bypassing the Queen's office entirely. The true weight of this operational shift became clear when the latest medical timeline from Sandringham arrived via a secure digital link. The report, verified by 3 independent royal physicians, indicated that King Charles's recovery timeline had officially accelerated, requiring him to delegate a much larger portion of his official duties than previously anticipated. This meant William was no longer just preparing for a future role. He was already operating as the de facto decision-maker behind closed doors, wielding the full authority of the sovereign pen. The immediate reaction from the civil service confirmed that the change was irreversible. By 10:15, the cabinet secretary issued an internal memorandum to all senior government departments, instructing them to update their contact protocols for royal correspondence. The new guidelines stated clearly that any document requiring immediate royal assent or signature must be copied directly to the Prince of Wales's private secretary. The administrative apparatus of the state had pivoted toward the heir apparent in less than 6 hours, leaving the Queen Consort's office entirely isolated from the legislative flow. Inside the palace walls, the logistical adjustments continued throughout the morning. The communications team began a thorough audit of all shared digital networks, removing several administrative profiles linked to Camilla's London advisors. This measure ensured that no further attempts could be made to draft or submit emergency amendments without triggering an immediate automated alert to William's security detail. The atmosphere among the staff remained intensely focused, as everyone recognized that a new era of strict operational discipline had begun. At 11 o'clock, the Prince of Wales left the library and walked across the wet lawns back toward his family residence. He did not look back at the castle walls. His team had already secured the administrative boundary, and the government had fully validated his legal directive. The immediate crisis had passed, but the long-term reality of a divided household was now permanently established. The line of command was unbroken, the old guard had held the line, and the future of the institution was firmly under his control. William spent the remainder of the morning in a private telephone conference with the Prime Minister, ensuring that the government's public statements would reflect complete stability. There was no mention of the midnight standoff or the furious departure of the Queen Consort. The official narrative would focus entirely on the planned delegation of duties during the King's recovery period. By managing the transition with absolute legal precision, the prince had neutralized the threat of a shadow regency and firmly established his position as the primary guardian of the crown. The balance of power inside the House of Windsor has permanently changed. Prince William has made his definitive move, and Queen Camilla's fury is only the beginning of this intense new era. By intercepting those emergency documents, the Prince of Wales has drawn a clear line in the sand, proving that he is already navigating the monarchy as its de facto decision-maker behind closed doors. What do you think this dramatic shift means for the future of the British crown? Will King Charles step in to mediate this escalating family tension? Or is William now completely in charge of the institution's future?